chat up here for you. Start playing music, please. Thank you. Pause. You look like you're live.
Okay, it hasn't come live on my screen yet, so I'm waiting for it. All right, everyone. Apologies about our dreadful start this morning. Following this video, we will be obviously doing some investigation into how we let this happen. So apologies for everyone who has been waiting patiently. Yes, this is not a good example of the quality we normally produce for this channel. We'll obviously be doing an investigation following this to see, you know, maybe we've got to change software for how we live stream. We were certainly ready at, unfortunately, 25 minutes ago, but OBS we couldn't connect to the live stream. So we are here now, we're good. So thank you very much for being patient. Feel free to just ask a couple of questions while people start to join. I'm going to actually post it on our Discord channel as well so people can join. We've got a very exciting stream for you guys hopefully today. In front of us we have 3 of these new AMD laptops. We have the ProArt here, which is the 13-inch. It's a 2-in-1 with a dedicated RTX 4050. This obviously is the Surface laptop by Qualcomm. And then we have 2 more Zen 5 laptops here, one with a higher end processor and one with a lower end Zen 5. And we're going to flip the processors up on screen. You can see them. We're going to walk through it. I'm just going to do a quick announcement on the Discord server that we're ready to go. Feel free to ask some questions while people join. Okay. All right. Afternoon. Yep, I can see everything. We're good. I'm looking at it here. Would you mind just turning a little bit towards me? Yeah. Thank you. All right. So we got, very, very exciting stream today. Do you use the framework, AMD Framework 13 as your daily driver? I don't right now. I actually restarted using it last week for a couple of days. I don't use it as my daily driver. I personally find the 13.5-inch screen, you know, when I've got some 14, this is a MacBook Pro 14 in front of me, I probably use that. I would say the MacBook Pro 14 is my daily driver. If I had one, I've been using the Surface 13 quite a lot. I quite like it. Yeah, Framework I haven't used much. News of the Framework laptop. If you're unfamiliar, Framework is a completely upgradable laptop, really cool concept. And we actually interviewed Nirav, the founder of Framework, and we've got a video coming, I think it'll be late this week for the channel, where you can hear a little bit about it. And then we have the Core Ultra version of the Framework laptop, which has a number of improvements over prior versions. It's got like a faster refresh rate display, it's got better cooling design, and that is it's got a full-size SD card reader. That's coming in as well. And I think there's an embargo of that like around mid-August, so that's coming too. So just give me a second. We're just waiting for people to join and then we're going to get started. So we've got a very, very exciting show for you today. And I think one of the reasons, and apologies again that we started almost 25 minutes late, we were testing up to the very, very last minute. We didn't get a lot of time to test these laptops in the sense that they only arrived about a week ago. And normally, as I've said to you guys before, I like to have like around 2 weeks would be a safe amount for us to, you know, really test the laptops, use them, and make a wonderful video for you. We didn't have this time, and we had a choice, right? Either we could do 3 days of testing and then, you know, 2-3 days of video production, or do what we're doing right now, where we've got far more thorough testing, but obviously we're doing a casual live stream. So yeah, as I said, I haven't started yet because we're just waiting for more people to join. We're starting to see, can we see the ProArt? Yeah. So you want to see the ProArt. So here's the ProArt, and it's called this is the PZ13, isn't it? Is the name of it? Yep. PX13. And it's here. It's a beautiful laptop, actually. This is probably so far our favorite, I must say, the ProArt. And it is a 2-in-1, okay? And it's very unusual because you've got an incredibly high-powered processor in a 13-inch laptop. And you know, there's not that big of bezels. And here it is compared to the 16-inch ZenBooks, okay? And you've got an RTX 4050 in this little thing as well, right? So you've got a very powerful CPU, very powerful GPU. And look at the size. I mean, guys, this is compared to the Surface 13. What would you rather? I mean, here's the Surface 13. It is bigger by, look at the dimensions. You can see it's a little bit bigger than the ProArt, right? And the ProArt has a 13.3-inch screen, I believe, compared to the 13.8 in the Surface. But nonetheless, it's got an RTX 4050. I mean, you can do stuff on this, on the ProArt, that you couldn't even dream of the Surface. And everything works. So, yeah, guys, I might get started now with the more, formal part of the stream. So let's rock and roll. We have big news, and this is our big news. I was nervous about, we've had two big processor releases, right? We've had Qualcomm with their Snapdragons, who took a particular approach where they paid a lot of people to market their product, whether it was paid, YouTubers or whether it was a lot of advertising. They've been funneling marketing dollars into their product launch for a very long time, and you've been hearing hype about it. AMD has done virtually nothing. We have had in this channel, and we're a bigger laptop review channel, we have had no contact with AMD. All of these have come from Asus, so props to Asus and thanks for helping out with that. And it's a very different approach to a product launch, right? AMD are taking this approach that they're going to let the products speak for themselves. And boy, do they speak for themselves. And since I value your time, this is what we found. Power efficiency, which is the most important factor of a CPU in a laptop. These new AMD Zen 5s perform neck and neck with the power efficiency of the Qualcomm Snapdragon X, which you've heard are more efficient than traditional Intel Core Ultra, particularly at lower wattage, and which is, around the 45 watts and below, I would say. And we're going to show you a really thorough graph in a second. They perform just as good as these Qualcomm Snapdragon processors. But because they are using x86, everything works. You don't have to deal with any software incompatibilities. You don't have to deal with software not working or running through an emulation. That's the first thing, okay? Just as good power efficiency as Qualcomm, and just as good performance, okay? And you're going to see this in some graphs that we're going to show you, and it's insane. The next big thing is, well, the graphics are pretty much better in most circumstances, the integrated graphics on these new AMD Zen 5s, than the Snapdragon laptops. And the third thing I would say we're going to show you is, of course, the NPU performance is better. So this leaves this whole Snapdragon thing that you guys have heard everyone carrying on about for the last couple of weeks. I mean, the only reason to buy one of these Snapdragon laptops now, and we've got the Surface in front of us right here, is if the quality of the laptop itself, because a laptop is the sum of its parts, is better than one with none of these AMD Zen 5 laptops, as in the laptop itself, as I said, the build quality, the keyboard, the trackpad, etc. And you're doing very basic tasks. Other than that, I can't see a reason for these Snapdragon laptops to exist. I can't, not from the data we're about to show you. So, and we will talk about battery life, but remember guys, battery life is really determined predominantly by the CPU's power efficiency, okay? And when I say predominantly, you can change, there's multiple SKUs of different configurations laptops. They can put a different display in the laptop, right? But the fundamental difference between a Qualcomm one and one with an AMD Zen 5 is really it's the CPU itself, right? And just to, as I said again, I value your time. So in terms of battery life, these ones in particular for light tasks were insane. Insane. I think, Taylor, correct me if I'm wrong, we got like 87% battery remaining after 4 hours of playing Netflix. 79 and 81 is what Taylor's saying. So around 80% battery remaining after using these for 4 hours. This is playing a Netflix video, 4K, over Wi-Fi, with the screen at 200 nits, and they had, barely, we're talking honestly I wouldn't say they're quite as good as the MacBook Pro 16, but very close, right, for a similar task. Now, and we'll go through some more details on the battery in a second. Okay, so let's dive in, and I think maybe we'll start. Taylor, would you mind bringing up on screen? We're going to start with some graphs, and Sierra's just joining us right now, so.
Perfect timing.
Yeah.
Right after the intro. Love it.
So Sierra's just going to join me on. She did a lot of testing with this. In fact, all of us. There was 4 of us here on site who did nothing but test these for 4 weeks. So if you wouldn't mind, while Sierra gets settled, do you want to put on screen, let's see the first graph, and we'll start walking people through. And by the way, what we're going to do is we're going to do the presentation of all the data we've found. Then we're going to talk, we'll answer questions as we go. Then we'll show you battery at the end because we've still got to actually put that data into graphs, which Sarah is going to do now. And then what we're going to do is do the whole thing again for people who've joined late. So don't be worried if you're joining the stream, late or midstream. We'll be doing that later. Just give me 2 seconds. So the settings, it's on a piece of paper in there, one of the filled out ones in pencil.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And nothing changed for the 30-minute run, so that was the same.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So let's have a look at the PowerPoint. Have you got one up? Yeah. Okay, so here's the first thing. So these are the CPUs, and what you'll see, and someone said, should I return a Legion Slim 514? No, because that's a higher end game. Maybe. Let's go through it. Yeah, anyone honestly who's in a return period right now with their laptop should seriously be considering returning and buying one of these. Let's have a look at the spec sheet. Okay, the top up here is the x86 processors, which is the top two. The purple is the current ones, the Zen 5 that we're talking about today. There's 3 of them. We have 2 of the HX 370s, right, Taylor? And one of the AI 365. So one of these is a HX 370, one is a 365. And then this one, the Pride, is the 370. We don't have the highest SKU, which is the 375. And then below it is AMD Zen 4. And then below that is Intel. Below that is Apple in the ARM processor section, and then we have Snapdragon, okay? And we're going to have this graph set available for you. And we will be talking about price. We absolutely will be. Sorry, guys, this is going to be a pretty big live stream. That's why we just needed to do it live. There's just so much to cover. The main thing to look at this that I want you guys to take away, and I think there's really 2 things here. The first one is this is the first time we've seen AMD using a different core kind of composition, right? They've really got, and they don't call them P and E cores, we've labeled them as such, but they do have these more, the faster cores, let's call that, we can call them P cores, and then they have these more slower cores, which are similar to what Intel has labeled E cores, right? So it's the first time we've really seen that in an AMD laptop. But, and I said this again, value your time, the bump up in performance, even per core, instructions per clock, is much better on these Zen 5s, and you're going to see that in a second. The next thing I want to call out here is Intel with their Core Ultras, and you'll see them in the blue section, right? You can see they're going up to 110 max temperature. So to get Intel performing well, they've had to increase that temperature envelope, where with these Zen 5s, they have not. So we're seeing a huge performance increase, but within the same temperature window, which is pretty amazing. And then just one other thing, I think you guys know this, we do have new integrated graphics or improved integrated graphics. You can see there's 2. There's 890M, which is in the top 2, the HX SKUs, and then the 880M, which is in the lower end SKU. And you're going to see all of them today. All right, let's move on.
All right, ready for slide 2?
Yep.
There you go.
All right. We're just waiting for, there's a slight delay between the, when he changes the slides, unfortunately, when I get to see them here. But what we're seeing as well with the HX model, which is the higher end CPU we have 2 of them, as I said, it performs a lot better in the ProArt, the 13-inch, than it does in the 16-inch. And you're going to see that in a second. So again, even though these are newer CPUs, they are very much to determine their performance by the thermals of the actual chassis themselves. All right, so here's our initial scores that we're looking right now at Geekbench, which tests a variety of very common performance tasks. We did some actually much more thorough testing of Geekbench than we've ever done before for this video. And all of these numbers, I believe, they're all new, I think, aren't they, Taylor? Yeah, they're all new, yeah. Yeah, Taylor said most of them, and I think that's fairly accurate. We retested, like any number you're seeing here, if it doesn't look right, we've retested like 3 or 4 times. So straight away you can see the top 3 laptops are the Zen 5 ones. And you can see, look at this incredible performance, okay guys? And what you'll see straight away, look at the single core performance, okay? These laptop single core is, it's getting close to Apple M3. So you're talking about a much more snappy single core experience than, look at these Intel laptops or the older Zen 4 ones, okay? Even we've got a Qualcomm one, you'll see that the Yoga Slim 7X, and we were very careful, by the way, as which laptops we chose to show you today. So we've shown you the Slim 7X because that was the best performing small Qualcomm laptop. That's why that one is there, okay? That's as good as they're going to get, okay, in terms of a small laptop right now. And you can see that the top end AMD Zen 5 laptop, which is the ProArt, it gets a score of almost 15,000. The Yoga Slim 7X is almost 14,000, right? So there's a big jump into the Zen 5 and multi-core. And then in single core, comparing those two laptops, 2,900 for the ProArt versus the Qualcomm laptop with 2,456. So Geekbench, better scores for Zen 5. Okay, I think we've covered that to death. Let's move on to the next one.
There you go.
Someone said AMD continuing to be a dark horse, and you're spot on. That is spot on. I love AMD's approach here. They're letting us discover that these processors are actually better than Qualcomm. They're substantially better than Intel and current offering and AMD's older offering. Very good processors, but they're not paying everybody to speak about them. They're not everybody's a broad term, but they're not shoving huge marketing dollars at us. Instead, they're just letting us tell you that the products are good because they are good, right? So here's Cinebench, which we've used a lot to demonstrate the power efficiency. This is a test, it's a really good test to run because it tests the processor when it's maxed out, which is really going to give you the full capabilities of the processor given the power draw it's fed, okay? And you can see here the ProArt PX13, which is the third row, has a score of 1,000 in multi-core. This is almost neck and neck with the MacBook Pro 14 with the M3 Pro 12-core chip. So this is, the MacBook Pro 14 starts with the M3 chip. Then if you buy the better model, it has the M3 Pro 11-core chip. That then goes up to the M3 Pro 12-core chip, which is the highest end chip I suggest people buy in a MacBook. That's the one I use. And then after that, it goes to the Max chips, which are way more expensive. But you can see that this little laptop here, right, the ProArt, which is a 13-inch laptop, is tied with the MacBook Pro 14, which is much more expensive, okay? And that's a great win. But I also, MacBooks still win in single core though, they do, right? But these new AMD laptops you can see are better in single core than they were. So there's a couple of takeaways I think from this graph that I want you to walk away with. Huge gains for Zen 5, okay? That's obvious, you can see that right here. Zen 5 beats Qualcomm in pretty much everything that I've shown you thus far, right? There isn't a single thing that Qualcomm beats it in. And the next takeaway is if Apple is still doing this well on the M3, I think we all know what's going to happen with M4, that Apple, it's just still in the lead, okay? And I do want to say one thing that I hope you guys are aware of. When you hear Qualcomm marketing ARM, right, it's not the same ARM as Apple. ARM is the instruction set, right? And it's how you implement that instruction set that's making a difference here. And the other thing as well, we had this on the prior graph, and we'll share the graph sets later. Apple is on TSMC 3 nanometer, where these other chips are TSMC 4 nanometers. So Apple does have a slight manufacturing advantage there too. Okay, so let's move on to the next graph. Thank you, Taylor.
All good.
Okay. Yeah, so you can see, guys, this is a huge step forward in performance. Okay, it really is, particularly from this ProArt, the HX3 set. And this is a 13-inch laptop, guys. I can't say something with a 4050. This is insane. We haven't seen anything like this, ever. Okay, I'm just waiting for the graphs to update. Okay, here's sustained performance. Let's go through it, okay? The ZenBook 16 at the top, we might have to rerun this because this is the lower end chip. It shouldn't be dropping performance like this. So what we're looking at is a single run of Cinebench multi-core versus a 10-minute run to see do they drop down, okay? Clearly, these ones here, which is these ZenBook S16s, these are extremely thin laptops. These are some of the thinnest laptops we've seen. They're not as light as like something like an LG Gram, or at least I haven't weighed them side by side, but they don't feel quite as light. They do have a little bit of heft to them. The Samsung 16s feel lighter, but they feel quite high quality, these machines, but they're very thin. So that's why you're seeing poorer performance with the same processor versus the ProArt. That's a little bit thicker. I'll show you the two together. Okay. There you go. So the ProArts are just a little bit thicker. Now, as I said, I'd be hesitant about the ZenBook 16 numbers at the very top. But when you look down, the other two laptops, we're not seeing a drop in performance over a 10-minute run versus a single run, which is good. As we follow down, you can see Intel, the ZenBook 14 with the Core Ultra, it does drop a little bit in performance. And again, look guys, these are different laptop chassis, but we did try to give you the most representative example of these major processors. So if it's here, we've probably chosen it, like the Core Ultra 7, we have 10 laptops with that, right? We've chosen it for you because we think it's the most representative. I would say let's keep going, Taylor, to the next slide. And while he flicks over, you see that no, it's really more, you know, there's not a lot of big drops anymore in performance over time. One of the reasons you're not seeing that anymore here is Cinebench actually runs, the newer Cinebench is a much more intensive test than the Cinebench R23, which is the older version. So we just don't see as many drops because it already takes like 3 minutes to run a single run anyway. Okay. Yeah, someone said that Pro Art looks like a real champ. It really does, guys. Okay. This I want to get through quickly. So the main thing about here, and you're going to see this is going to be the main part of the presentation, okay? What you're seeing here is average wattage down the bottom, and then the Geekbench or the multi-core score on the left. So this is Geekbench. The only thing I want you to take away from this graph is the reason we don't use other tests other than Cinebench to test this power efficiency is they don't really max out the CPU. So what you can see here is it doesn't really matter how much wattage, like what setting we run the laptops on for Geekbench, whether it's their highest power settings, whether some of these, which you're going to see here in the video, G16, we actually use their manual software to set different power draws, right? So we set it to like, you know, a lot of power, like 80 watts. But you can see with Geekbench, it just doesn't draw any more than like 18 watts. It doesn't, because it doesn't need to. And these are average wattages. It does, Geekbench, what you'll find is some of its tests would peak at like 60 watts, but then drop down to 18. So let's switch straight over to Cinebench, which is the more impressive one. Okay, the only reason I wanted to show you this is so you guys understand why we're focusing on Cinebench for this test, because it shows what the processor is capable of at different power draws, because it fully utilizes that power, okay? So here is the big reveal of what we found and why I said is a stream that is definitely worth watching, and why we've got a big news for you guys, okay? So what you're going to see is similar colors to this one, and what you're seeing here is the white at the top is Apple, and don't jump ahead with it yet. I want to explain something about what Apple's doing here. The purple dots, these, and apologies if you're colorblind, these are the new Zen 5 processors. The yellow dot is the Snapdragon X Elite. We used it for gold. That seems to be the color they're using. The blue is Intel in their traditional color, and the red is AMD Zen 4. The ones that have the lines dropped, the dots drawn with a line, these are where we did all the tests on a single laptop. We use the G16 for Intel, which is the Asus G16, and then we use the Asus G14 for AMD. So what you can see, if you want to compare Zen 5 to Zen 4, you compare the purple to the red. Okay, if you want to compare Zen 5 to Intel, the purple to the blue. And basically what you want to see here is you want to see less power drawn for similar performance or better performance. So if you look at the Intel graph, you can see that it starts to taper off its performance around 69 watts, 68 watts, and that gives you a Cinebench score of a little bit over 1,000, okay? But look with the Zen 5, drawing only around, you know, anywhere between 40 to 52 watts, it produces the same Cinebench score. So its power efficiency compared to Intel is much greater. You're talking here, what are we looking at here, guys? We're looking at around, what, 20 watts more power efficient than Intel. I mean, that is insane. That's insane, folks. And at lower power draws, you can see around the 30 watt mark, you know, Intel is getting a score of around 600 in Cinebench, where these new Zen 5s are getting a score of over 800. And this is the money slide, okay? This slide, I can't tell you, this slide took 4 people about 2 days to produce these results. And these dots here, most of these were run multiple times, or a lot of these were run multiple times. And the way we're constructing these dots, in laptops like the G14 and G16, we can control the power draw. So we are literally sitting there incrementing power. And if you know PL levels, these CPUs will run at a certain power for a short amount of time, burst power, then they go down for the next amount of time, then they drop down further. So they kind of burst their power and bring it down. To produce these graphs, we got rid of the burst. We just did a solid number throughout, right? That's how we did it for any laptop, that's for ones that are doing that. Then what we did, and these are average over a Cinebench run, power draws, these are not max, these are average, okay? And what you're also seeing here Any dots that don't have the line drawn, this is where we couldn't control the wattage being sent to it, so we use the performance modes of the laptop itself, okay? Most laptops have at least 3 performance modes, like a battery mode, a balance mode, and then they have a performance mode. Some of them have a 4th mode, a turbo, which we did use as well if it was available. And there was one other thing I wanted to say about performance modes. Yeah, someone mentioned Apple is killing it. So Apple is better still, but I do want to highlight one thing for you guys. I would be very hesitant to look at that very high white dot, and this is why. As you can see from the graph, the less power you feed to one of these processors, the more efficient it is. What Apple are doing is they don't allow us to change, at least from what we can see, the power fed to the processor. So if you want to get a better processor, you're buying a completely different processor. You're moving up from M3 to M3 Pro or M3 Max. And as you move up, these have more cores. So what they can do is run each of these cores at lower wattage, being more efficient, and they have more cores and get a better multi-core score. So with all of these dots in the colors, this is feeding the same processor different amounts of power. But because we can't change the amount of power, or the same, let me rephrase that, the same line of processor. So with the Intel, some of them are Core Ultra 7, some are Core Ultra 9, but they have the same number of performance cores, right? With the Apple, it's the only one where when you look at that high dot, it actually has more performance cores. So yes, Apple is in the lead, but it's not as in the lead as what you would think with this massive score there. That's an M3 Max processor, which it just has a lot more cores. Each of them can be run at a, as I said, they don't have to be fed. It's better to feed more cores, less power per core. They're going to perform better overall than less cores, a higher power draw. I hope that makes sense. But as someone said here, you can see very clearly if this is M3, most of the life of these processors, they're going to be competing with M4, okay? So here again are the main summaries for this video. 1, as you can see, AMD is as good as Qualcomm, if not better. So all this hoopla that you've been hearing about the incredible power efficiency of Qualcomm, yes, it's more efficient than Intel. You can see that in this graph, but AMD is just as efficient. So let me ask you this. If you can buy an AMD processor Zen 5, everything works because it's using x86, right? You can run Linux, all the AAA games run, or you can buy a Qualcomm processor and a lot of games don't run, right? And a lot of applications don't run, then why the hell would you buy a Qualcomm laptop? The only reason to buy a Qualcomm laptop right now is if the laptop as a whole you really like it and you're sticking mostly to basic tasks or tasks that you know will run on the laptop. So it's going to be, I think this is, I hate to use this term, but this is a bit dead on arrival for Qualcomm. It really is. I can't see any reason a manufacturer would choose to put a Qualcomm processor in one of their laptops seeing this. There's just nothing. There's nothing here for Qualcomm. And you're going to see this later in, wait till you see the GPU scores. It's even worse for Qualcomm. So it's really going to be about can there be enough supply of these AMD processors in the laptops. I do want to talk about Qualcomm's power draws as well. We came under criticism for the way we measured that last time. Qualcomm, this is their fault. The tools we use to measure power draw, like Hardware Info, which is the most common one that everyone uses to measure power draw, they have posted themselves on their site that Qualcomm's developer kit doesn't allow them. It's not that they haven't updated their software. The developer kit doesn't support measuring power draw, at least from what the Hardware Info developers have posted. Okay, so it's a Qualcomm issue. So last time when we showed you our Qualcomm numbers, what we did was subtract, we measured power draw from the wall using just standard units that you would buy at a hardware store. And we have 2 of them just so we could verify. What we did was subtract 7 watts for the rest of the laptop. We felt that that was being too tough on Qualcomm. And this is how, by the way, this is how we came to these 7 watts, what we measured the power for the rest of the laptop, because we're measuring power draw from the wall. What we did was use very similar laptops with Intel and AMD, measured their power draw from the wall, measured their CPU power, subtracted it to see what that delta was, and then we said, okay, these Qualcomm laptops, they have a similar screen, similar size, similar brightness, similar refresh rate, very similar, and that's how we came to that 7 watts. We did further testing after that video, and for this, we've actually used 12 watts. Okay, so we've taken what is the Snapdragon laptop's drawing from the wall and then subtracted 12 watts for the rest of the laptop to leave us with that delta, which is the power draw for the laptop CPU. And Where I'm going with this is that means that these yellow dots, I think, are as good as Qualcomm's going to look. I don't think that, would you agree, Taylor? I don't think you measured a lot of this stuff yet. You're not going to see this is as good as Qualcomm will look for power efficiency, okay? And it ain't good. So Taylor, would you mind swapping to the next slide? Okay. Bryson is asking about sleep-wake behavior, the hot bag, where you pick your laptop out of a bag, it's closed, you think it should be sleeping, it's not. That one I can't comment on. So far, these have all been good. So far, they're closed right now. None of them have had that problem. I know exactly what you're talking about. We have it a crazy amount with Alienware and Dell laptops. We haven't noticed it, but I want to be transparent with you. We've had these for a week, okay? All right, this is the standard power draw graph as we measured it. The only one, as I said, which is special is the Qualcomm one, the ZenBook 14X. Qualcomm apparently doesn't support measuring power draw, at least according to the Hardware Info guys. So this is us, we subtracted 12 watts from, oh, is this what we drew from the wall, or is this subtracted 12 watts? I think it's after subtracting 12 watts. Yeah. So this gives you an idea of, I mean, look how little the power draw of these processors are. I mean, the HX370, and it performs pretty well, that ZenBook S16, which is one of these two here, 33 watts of power. I mean, and you saw it had like crazy good Cinebench scores. We'll flick back for you, but we'll do a video on this afterwards. But even the ProArt, yes, it does have a huge boost of like it draws a huge amount of power for a very short amount of time, which is the orange bar. But the blue bar, 51 watts, and you saw this one draws 51 watts and beats almost every laptop here and ties with the MacBook Pro 14. But you can see the MacBook Pro 14, still only 28 watts, right? As I said before, Apple has just, I mean, guys, the main takeaway from this video is Apple's M4 is just going to destroy all these Windows laptops. Zen 5 is now, I would say, officially in the lead for Windows laptops by a pretty good margin. Very good margin in power efficiency over Intel, and just better in graphics, better in NPU than Qualcomm, and better in application support than Qualcomm. So if you're not buying an Apple, you should be buying a Zen 5. Let's move over to the next graph.
All right, next slide. There it is.
Okay. Let me answer some more questions. Yeah, I don't think it needs to feed at, someone's asking about 51 watts for the ProArt. Yes, but I don't think it needs to feed at 51 watts. I think you're seeing that diminishing marginal returns curve that we just showed you. You're probably going to get close to that kind of score with 40 watts. And these are all run in the high performance mode. So if you run this on its balance mode, it's not going to feed it as much power, and you're still going to get very similar performance due to that diminishing marginal return curve that I showed you. Yeah, and I mean, guys, if Intel doesn't release Lunar Lake and it to be truly amazing, which is their next processor, I mean, AMD is so far ahead. I mean, they are so far ahead. Okay, this is performance per watt. You can see here that compared to Apple, no surprises, running the HX370 processor with less wattage, which is 33 watts, which is what the ZenBook S16 is doing. This is getting us the best score of 20. This is what we did with Cinebench multi-core divided by the power draw, right? And higher is better here. So this is how efficient it is. So 28 watts. So it seems like running these new AMD Zen 5 processors at around 30 to 40 watts is probably ideal from what we're seeing. And you're getting huge performance, and it's only behind Apple's MacBooks. And I would compare it to the MacBook Pro. The Air 13, yes, it has crazy power efficiency, but it draws so little power and its performance isn't that good. So I would compare it more to the MacBook Pro 14. So in all of these, look at the ProArt as well, right? The PX13, a score of 20. When we look at the Snapdragon, which is the ZenBook 14X, a score of 15. Oh, no, sorry, apologies, the ZenBook 7X, a score of 18. So you're seeing both the ProArt with the HX370 and the and the ZenBook with the HX370 beat the Qualcomm laptop. Guys, I don't know what to do. I just got to be honest that, and this is the kind of company we are. We spent, not last week because we were testing all these, the week before, making this incredible video for you on the best Snapdragon laptop to buy. We tested, we got all of them. We got Samsungs, we got 3 Surfaces. We went and got all these Qualcomm laptops and we ran them and we made the whole video and it was ready to go today. It was meant to be launching today, right? Full-length video on which ones to buy. And I watched it through and I'm like, we can't do this to you. How can we sit here and promote these Snapdragon laptops and say the best one to buy without telling you this information that we knew first? We've known this for a week, right? We've got to change that video and say, hey, if you found a laptop you love that is one of these Snapdragon laptops and you're just doing light tasks, which these work really well on, then this video is for you and this is which one you should buy. But from our perspective, seeing all these laptops, if you can buy a Zen 5, you should absolutely be buying that over a Qualcomm. Okay, let's move on.
Okay, next slide.
Yep, so moving on to the next slide. We're going to start to look at graphics, which we haven't talked about yet. I'm just reading the comments here, guys. Hey Josh, I can't afford the new ZenBook, but I can afford the ZenBook S16 with the VivoBook S16 with very similar specs. Should I buy it? I mean, well, that is one of these Qualcomm laptops. You know, if you know for sure that every one of your application will work, it is a good option, yes. Is it as good as one of these Zen 5 laptops? No, but it is still a good option if you fit that mold that I just described.
It looks like we're good now.
We're good?
It's unfrozen on my screen.
Okay, guys, are we back? We should be back. Yeah. Would you mind just checking that the fans are on? The air conditioner seems to have cooled down. Actually, I can do it here. Guys, are we back? We say we're back. Yes, people are saying yay. So guys, let us know if we're back. People are saying we're back. Okay. Can you see us, guys? It works? Good. Just give me a second. I'm just going to turn the air on here. It's a little bit cold. It's a bit hot for some reason in here. We have this amazing air conditioner, which we've installed throughout the studio. So hopefully it comes back on in a moment. Yeah, I can hear it coming. Okay. Sierra is here. Do you want to say hi, Sierra?
Hello.
Okay. All right.
I just finished the graphs.
Oh, the battery graphs, just in time. So we're going to leave us on with this on main camera because we're going to talk about the rest of the graphs. So we're back on, we're looking at the temperature graphs. Let's move on now, Taylor, to some of the other graphs. Let's talk about, I want also, guys, I want to be, again, very clear with you guys. I don't feel that to the level we like to review laptops that we have spent enough time on the laptops themselves. So we are going to follow up with full reviews of the laptops. What I wanted to focus on today is more so the actual, the processes in them, okay? So let's move on to the next graph. You've already done that? Yeah, it just hasn't come up yet. Okay. So here is the heat you feel on the laptops themselves, okay? Some standout ones, obviously the ZenBook S16. These are very, very small, thin and light laptops. And again, I want to reiterate this. I really am nervous about showing you these numbers. I think you deserve to see them because obviously you've got to see the operating environments for the processors, but we haven't spent enough time on the laptops themselves to really give you our full thoughts on them. We did notice that these thin and light ZenBook 16s, they do feel, was it overly warm or with lots of fan noise? What was the one that got us with this? Was it fan noise or heat that really got us? I mean, you can see right here, the heat, yeah. So you can see here, these are very thin laptops, right? They just are. I mean, look at it, right? So my 2 cents is I wouldn't put this HX processor, which is the mid-tier Zen 5 processor, in a laptop this thin. I think if you're going to get the ZenBook 16, you probably want the lower tier processor. It doesn't get as crazy hot, but they do get hot. But you can see here again, the winner is this ProArt PX13. I mean, look at its temperatures, right? Again, it performed the best out of these laptops, tying with the MacBook Pro with the M3 Pro 12 core, and it's a tiny laptop. I mean, I wish we had the 16-inch version because there's a 16-inch too, but and it's got a 4050 in here as well. So this is incredible. Let's move on to the next one. Okay. Yeah, M3 does feel pretty cool here. Oh, I think we might have a problem with the M3 test then maybe. Maybe we left that fan thing that turns the fans on a bit more. Yeah, we've got to retest that one, I think. Guys, I would be nervous about seeing this score here for the M3 MacBook Pro 14. I'm nervous that we had max fan control on and we were forcing the fan to be higher. I would ignore the max score there. When we do the full video, because as I said, we tried to get as much data done as possible for today, we will correct anything like that. Or it may not need a correction, but we'll retest again just to make sure. Okay, so this is the fan noise that you're seeing in the laptops. The ProArt does have very loud fans on its high performance mode. Okay, just to be clear, it has multiple performance modes. This was on its high performance mode, okay? If you turn it on its balance mode, it loses a little power draw, but as you saw in the graphs, due to that diminishing returns, it's not gonna lose that much performance, and it does help a lot in terms of its fan noise, okay? But look, a lot of these laptops have loud fan noise on that mode, right? It's not that out of range for some of these other Windows laptops. Good job. This is where the Qualcomm laptop is doing very well here. You can see it doesn't generate a lot of fan noise, but then again, its performance isn't as good, right? All right, let's move on to the next one. We will delve into more about these numbers because, you know, the challenging thing with a laptop, right, is it's really about how the manufacturer, the thermal constraints of the laptop itself. It's about how much power the manufacturer feeds through it. That's why I liked the test particularly that we did earlier that we showed you of performance per watt, where we're really trying to isolate that part of the laptop. So now we're moving on. Is it graphics we're going to talk about now? Yeah, so now we're going to take a look at graphics, okay? So here is the graphics scores, and this is Wildlife Extreme. Don't worry, we're going to separate out the ProArt. This is the RTX 4050 that's being used here. That's why it's doing so well. That's not the integrated A890. For any graphics test where we could run the two separately, we did. I think this one perhaps we couldn't, is maybe why we didn't. But let's look at the 890M. So we're looking at the 880M. So the 880M of the ZenBook S16, you can see 34 and 37 for its performance scores. And so here we're testing again the graphics, okay? And really, if you look down here, it's tying in this case with the Slim 7X, which is the Qualcomm laptop. Apple still wins in integrated graphics, they just do, okay? Or, you know, system on a chip kind of graphics. So, you know, we're seeing realistically best for a Windows laptop, this is best in class integrated graphics. Would you mind going to the next graph? But hold your thoughts. I want you to look at a couple more graphs because Qualcomm does not perform as well in the full set of GPU benchmarks. Okay, but the AMD laptops do. Okay, so AMD again, you're looking at top best performance in integrated graphics straight away here. So we're moving on to the next one. Sorry, apologies guys, there's a slight delay when we change the graphs for seeing it on screen. 780M is definitely not much faster than the M3 MacBook. That's not true. If there's a 780M faster, that's probably using the dedicated graphics Ricci, right? That particular one, we couldn't separate them. A lot of these tests where we can separate integrated from dedicated, we do, and you'll see that on our graphs. But otherwise, some of them just default to using the dedicated. So this is Time Spy, okay? Again, this is another one that's used the dedicated for the ProArt, so please ignore that one. But let's focus on the 890M. And let's look at the dark blue, okay? You can see here the dark, and the reason I say to look at the dark blue, that's the graphics score, right? I don't want it to be confused by the orange, which is the total score, is influenced by the processor. But if we isolate the graphics score, which is the dark blue, you can see we're getting a score of 3,239, and this is a DirectX 12 benchmark used by pretty much most modern AAA games. That 3,200 is on par with Intel's Arc graphics. It's a little bit behind the Arc graphics in the, I think this the VivoBook S14. I think that's a Core Ultra 9. So that's Intel's highest end integrated graphics. So this is where Intel really does shine with their Arc graphics, is for AAA gaming. Even though, to be honest, none of these scores are going to be good enough to really run AAA games at decent settings. But you can see that AMD's come a long way, okay? They're just a little bit behind Intel's Arc here. And yeah, and we dropped off, I think we dropped off Qualcomm from this one because it just doesn't even run. And that's really very common with Qualcomm with a lot of the games. It's a dreadful CPU to get for games, okay? The 880M is the integrated graphics performance, that's right. The only one of these new Zen 5 laptops that isn't using the integrated is the ProArt PX13. We've indicated that it's using the RTX 4050. That's just due to the way these tests run. When we can separate them, we will. So let's move on to the next one. We've got a couple more graphics ones to show you. Sorry, apologies. Again, it's just taking time to switch slides. I mean, yeah, I can't say the it's really good. I just love AMD's approach here. It's the same approach of Apple. We're not going to pay influencers to market. We're not going to do a big marketing spend. We're just going to let the products speak for themselves. I mean, we have had zero contact with AMD. Zero. Like for the Qualcomm launch, they're flying people out to see the processors in person. They're paying some reviewers to do sponsored reviews. None of that with these. They're just like, Asus just gives us these laptops and they're friggin' amazing. Like the product speaks for itself. There's no need, when the product is this good, you do not need to spend marketing dollars. And I love that approach to product management. Okay, this is a good one. So this is Cyberpunk. And this is interesting here because now what we've done is we've split the ProArt from the ProArt with the 4050. So you can see the ProArt's integrated graphics, which gives you a average FPS of 36, versus with the RTX 4050 of 86. I mean, guys, seriously, the fact that this little thing is a 13-inch laptop is playing games like this, it's with 86 frames per second at 1920 by 1080 on high settings, there's no DLSS on or anything like that, no ray tracing, but still, that's insane. Anyway, on the integrated graphics, you can see that, look, AMD leads. AMD leads, right? It's beating even Intel's integrated graphics here, right? So you can see it really depends benchmark to benchmark of like what you're running as to which one's in the lead. But what I will tell you reliably is that Zen 5 is either in the lead or number 2 in pretty much all of these graphics tasks. If you think about which laptop is going to reliably give you the best integrated graphics in the Windows world, it is AMD Zen 5 right now, reliably. I mean, you're seeing the graphics for yourself, okay? Now, the Slim 7X, it's probably not running natively here, or there's probably some issues here about why it's performing awful. This is the Qualcomm one, but again, this highlights again what I've been saying the whole time about Qualcomm. It's really bad for gaming. It just maybe some of your games work perfectly on it, but for most gamers, it's a terrible CPU to get. Let's move on to the next graph, Taylor.
Yeah.
All right. So the guys are just bringing up the next one. Battery life we're coming to. So we've got one or two more graphs to talk about, and then we're going to get to battery life. Battery life is a challenging one, of course, because it really depends on how much, the manufacturer, how big the batteries are as well. For this video, I don't think I'd have to check with Sierra. We haven't done our normalization. So what we want to do for battery life is normalize for the size of the battery so they're all on an even playing field. We'll put that in our full video. I don't think we've done it for today. Just takes, to do this level of testing, it takes a long time, guys. Okay, so here's Geekbench 6. It looks like we've got a font size issue with the graph. Again, we rushed them out for you guys. But you can see straight away, so this is Geekbench Compute testing the graphics capabilities. Very similar score to what we just saw for Cyberpunk. In the lead is the 890M. This is the integrated, not the RTX 4050. the integrated of Zen 5, fantastic score again, right in the lead. So, you know, take away from graphics, the most reliable, best performing integrated graphics on a Windows laptop is AMD Zen 5 integrated graphics, the 890M. Okay, that's the most reliable. It wins in almost every test other than I think one where it came second, and then Apple is still in the lead with integrated graphics. Okay, let's move on to the next one.
All right.
So now I think we've got the MPUs, and then we're switching over. Yep.
Yep.
So we're going to show the MPUs. The MPU is the only one that we couldn't measure. Okay, we have looked for over and over for tests of this MPU. You guys know my thoughts on AI on laptops. I think it's just a complete friggin' hoax. I just feel like it really, most people aren't going to use it. If you are using AI on your laptop, it's probably actually running the models, the inference models on the cloud. It's probably not running it locally. Okay, I just think it doesn't really. It's not something you should be buying a laptop based off. You should be buying a laptop based on the sum of its parts. How good is the screen? How good is the keyboard? How good is the trackpad? Does it have fan noise? Does it feel hot? How long is its battery? And how powerful is it in real tasks that you're going to run on a day-to-day basis? So I think MPU, this whole hoopla about AI, they're just trying to use it as an excuse for you guys to buy more laptops. But here it is anyway. And again, these are manufacturer stated numbers. Okay, we did not verify them other than, these are all manufacturer stated ones. So what you're seeing here, Zen 5, Qualcomm just made a huge hoopla about their processors. You'll see them there, Snapdragon X Plus, X Elite. The Zen 5 is better for the MPU, at least according to the manufacturer stated numbers. And NVIDIA, again, if you are going to be doing any real AI tasks on your laptop, it's going to be using NVIDIA's cores, not Zen 5. And you can see that very clearly here. Which honestly, for anyone who's studying computer science and wants access to an NVIDIA GPU, the ProArt is a great option. Which, gosh, this year, I got to be honest with you guys, doing these big roundup videos like we've done, like best laptop for students, I wish we waited for 2 weeks. This would have been a great one for computer science students like Trinity. But what we did do right in that video, best laptop for students, we did tell you to go and use the quiz on the website. So we said that that would be kept up to date. So we will be putting the ProArt as a good example of for someone who's coding for AI as software development, or someone wants to go to university and game on the side. The ProArt is going to be a great option for you. So we will update the website. And on that note, by the way, the whole reason we're able to do this, and you don't see, sponsored videos, which I think influence reviewers. You don't see that many from us. Is because that we have a giant website and we're funded predominantly through the affiliate marketing on the website. We're not trying to sell you everything there. That's why our website, we don't have every laptop on there. We only have the ones we recommend. But moral of the story, if you do want to buy a laptop and you are in the USA, please go via the website. It's not going to cost you any more, but it helps fund the channel. All right, let's move on to battery life.
All right, let's get this. Give us 2 seconds to.
Cost comparison of the laptops. Yeah, I have that here, guys. While they're bringing up battery life, I'll go through it. So ZenBook S16, we're looking at $1,400, and that's with the 365 chip, the lower end one. So it's very similar to a Qualcomm pricing. I don't think I have the ZenBook 16 with the higher end one. We have the ProArt, which is the P13, the one I've been raving about. That one's $1,700 MSRP. So it's pricey, but it does come with 32 gig of memory, 1 terabyte of storage. It's got an OLED display, high resolution. It seems like it's only a 60 hertz display, at least what Asus have told us here. They've actually, no, they've got a 4070 version I see here, and that's at Best Buy for $1,700. So that looks pretty good. That seems like pretty reasonable for what you're getting. It's a very small package. The G16 is going to be updated with Zen 5, which I think is very exciting, because boy, did the G16 struggle with Intel Core Ultra. It really did. So that's expensive. The G16 is going to come in at $2,200. You'll find these laptops on our website, by the way. Again, if you do want to buy one, please go via the website, because that's what helps fund the channel. So the G16 gets a 4070. It's got the HX 370, which is the mid-tier processor, the Zen 5. That looks very interesting. It's expensive at $2,200, but it's very portable, guys, and I would imagine with the AMD processor, it's going to fare a lot better than the Intel one. The Intel one, both us and Hardware Canucks, which is a channel that we also, we do know and we work closely with, and we like their data. Both of us found the G16 with the Core Ultra was a bit rough. It just really didn't handle that processor particularly well. It's a very thin laptop. Then we've got the TUF A14. This sounds really interesting. So this is an Asus 14-inch low-priced gaming laptop. When I say low, it's $1,500, but the TUF is generally their budget kind of range, or at $1,500 isn't budget. But look, I think it's going to be very interesting to get. This is going to be a 14-inch gaming laptop with one of these Zen 5 processors and an RTX 4060. That looks pretty tasty to me. Looks really good. So look, they are priced a little bit on the high end. I'm not surprised. I mean, some of these laptops are really, the ZenBook S16 is a very, sorry, not ZenBook, the Zephyrus G16 is a very premium laptop. These ProArts are pretty premium. So I'm not surprised that they're pricey. But, you know, by the time, these are all some of these Best Buy prices. Often these go on sale $200, $400 off. It's going to make it very reasonable, okay? So I see a comment from Kyle. Okay. Oh, someone's asking about the VivoBook S with the AMD A9 HX370. Yes, that's a good one. Okay.
Battery's about to die.
Oh. We might have to switch batteries on the camera. So we're gonna lose the camera just for a moment while we switch batteries, and then we're gonna walk you through the battery results which you're seeing on screen. So you guys have a look at the graph. I'm just gonna disappear my little frame while they switch batteries, okay? The Sierra's graph. I want to run people through that once more. I want to end with that one. Okay. Is it up?
Yep, you're pretty good.
Okay, it's just going to come up.
Yeah, if you just want to ask chat that you're good, you should be good though.
We just can't. Okay.
100% nice. Okay.
Okay, so we're back. All right, folks. So here is battery remaining. We've got to fix the graph. It's a bit off the page here. Oh, and can you just move me? Because I'm just over the top of the battery remaining. It's 79. The top graph is just the retailer. It's 79%, I think, is the top one. So look at battery remaining. What we did here was we ran Netflix over Wi-Fi, the same Wi-Fi network, from the same distance from the router. On battery, 200 screens at 200 nits. We set them to their best battery mode. By the way, we have a little check that we do. If the laptops perform incredibly poorly on battery, because a lot of manufacturers are cheating now, what they do is on their best battery mode to ace these tests, they're running the performance of the processor so low that everything is laggy. We catch them out on this. So if they do that, we penalize them, and what we do is we run them on balance mode instead, because it has to be usable, okay? What you're seeing here is incredible scores from these Zen 5 processors, okay? Incredible scores. They really are second to the max. Now, the ProArt, be aware, the reason the ProArt with the Zen 5 does so poorly is it has dedicated NVIDIA graphics. That's why. None of these, we're not comparing these to like 14-inch gaming laptops with dedicated graphics, so please give the ProArt a bit of a pass. One thing that I want to knock Asus on here is we did actually run the ProArt in its graphics eco mode, which is meant to turn off the NVIDIA graphics. But perhaps, and it did disappear from Task Manager, we couldn't see it, but that isn't, if something doesn't seem right here, it should be a little bit higher. The other thing of note is the ProArt, it's a very small laptop. Do we know how big the battery is in it? No, we don't, we've got a test, we'll have that for you for the full video. But the ProArt likely has a smaller battery. It's a 13-inch laptop too. So we got to keep that in mind. It's got the most powerful processor here, but the Windows laptops, but it's probably got the smallest battery, right? I mean, look at the size of it, right? Huge difference in size. I mean, massive, right? So, and it's got RTX 4050, which fills up more space. So it's probably got the smallest battery as well. So if you really want to see the Zen 5 battery life, really look at the top 2 bars, okay? And as you can see, it's really, really good. Let's move over to, and better than the Slim 7X, which of course has the Qualcomm processor that we've all heard a lot about. Yeah, the top one is 79%. Yes, yeah, top one's 79% if you can't see it. So we're bringing up now battery life running Cinebench, okay? So that's going to come up. And this one, we like to do 2 battery tests. One is more casual tasks, just watch Netflix, right? It doesn't do a huge amount. The other one is like, hey, if you're running performance tasks on battery, what can you expect? And for people like programmers, you're probably hitting performance very quickly when you're doing code compiles and tests, but then you're not hitting much performance after that. So let's have a look. Yeah, he's saying Andrew Mark David, I'm assuming he's talking about got much better battery life on the Snapdragon XL8. We can rerun our tests there. Ours is, when you say much better, ours did well. We got 71% battery remaining. That's good. I think we only have
the Slim 7X. Some of the other ones did better.
Yes, yeah, so just to be clear, okay. Ricci is a viewer, is asking about Andrew Mark David got better on the Snapdragon XL8 for battery life. Sierra is saying some of these other, and she did primary testing for all the Snapdragon laptops, which got a video coming on them. She's saying some of the other Snapdragon laptops did even better than this Slim 7X here, okay? That being said, we chose the Slim 7X to show you today because it was the best performing small Snapdragon laptop, so we wanted to compare it to these new Zen 5 processors because they do perform so well. We don't want to compare like the OmniBook, which did very well in battery life, because its performance is just so bad. It's so bad, right? Yes, the ProArt PX13, in terms of video production, we're close to the one best Snapdragon laptops. We're going to finish that one off. We're going to finish off a video for this that we showed you today. And then, yes, the ProArt will be our next review that we do after that. It's clearly a fantastic laptop that has to be reviewed. The only thing I'd be worried about, I think when we do review this, is I want to review it a lot. I want to show you a lot of balance mode numbers too, because it does get so loud with its fan noise on performance mode that I want to also see, hey, I expect that it'll still perform very close to as good on balance mode with a lot less fan noise, but I want to prove that out. Because I think with this laptop, because it is so loud, you know, running in performance mode would run it like that. We're still waiting for the Cinebench battery test. It's still not up.
It's up on our end.
It's up on our end.
It says, oh, it says Netflix. Okay, let me just see it. Okay, here we go. So now let's take a look at Cinebench. So this is the one where we're running it on performance tasks. Okay, so I think this is where he was commenting on that. The Slim 7X does very badly on that. Yes. I would, when you look at Andrew Mark David's test, and I need to call Andrew, he might even be watching, go check his channel out. In fact, him and I spoke yesterday. The gentleman was saying his Slim 7X, which is the Qualcomm laptop that performs really poorly. I don't think he's running Cinebench, which maxes out the CPU performance in his battery test, which is probably why it performed better. As you can see in the graph before, the Snapdragon laptop did perform better on lighter tasks, okay? Someone's saying the volume is wrong. How is the volume wrong? Fix the volume, battery drain test. Can people hear me? Can you just let me know that you guys can hear? Terrible sound, very low. Someone's saying that.
I'll turn it up.
They're turning up the sound right now. Can you guys?
Yeah, I turned it up a little bit.
I've turned it up a bit. Can you guys hear okay? But I mean, honestly, these are pretty good numbers. Again, I question the ProArt why it's doing so badly here. I would presume it's probably because it's it's clear. It's probably because it's a smaller battery. We need to check the battery size of it. Do we have that written somewhere? I don't think we do. Would you want to look it up, or just do you need it? Okay. Sierra's just going to check the battery size. It also has a dedicated NVIDIA graphics, right? Where, like, when you compare it to, say, the Slim 7X with Qualcomm, you don't get it's got an RTX 4050. That's a very, even though it's low range for NVIDIA, it's a really good dedicated graphics, right? So it destroys the Slim 7X. All right, so let's now go back to that main graph and let's start to wrap up, because I want to give the overall thoughts.
The Cinebench performance by wattage.
Yeah, so we're going to go back to the money, what I would consider the most important slide of this whole thing. And I want to wrap up with my overarching thoughts here. And then, 7:30 in the morning on a Sunday morning. We all came in at 5:30 to do this, so we're going to go to breakfast afterwards and relax, and then we're going to get straight into videos for you guys for next week. I'm just looking at the comments here when you see me looking down, and I'm waiting for the graph to come up so I can give you my concluding thoughts. Okay. So the battery life of the PX3013, if we just disable we have disabled it. All these tests have the dedicated graphics disabled. That's why I've asked Sierra to check the battery size. In our full review, when we talk about the laptops, we're going to do a video like we did today, one of our short, 12, 13-minute ones. It's really punchy. We will normalize for battery size, which should help a little bit with this, seeing how these compare, okay? Do we have a chance to test the new G16? We haven't yet. We don't have that one in. We only have these 3 in. I'm very excited about that one. I think that could turn around the G16's fate. Is the M3 really accurate here? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But remember, you've got to look, when we talk about normalization, realistically, you'd want to normalize to truly see power efficiency. You'd want to normalize for the battery size and how much performance you get. The M3 looks really good here because it's actually the worst performing of this bunch, right? So it doesn't, when you're running Cinebench on a loop, it's just not performing that well. So that's why it looks so good, okay? Yeah, someone said just buy a MacBook. Yes, there is no doubt. And when I'm still waiting, the graph should be up now. Okay, let's go to the final graph. Why is this? It will not let me, sorry, apologies. Here we go. Okay. So let's kind of wrap up by looking at this graph once again, because this is the most important graph, okay? This is where we're looking at the power efficiency of the CPU, and that's truly what really matters. And blue is Intel, and as you can see, it's probably the worst performing. At lower wattage, it performs worse. It's lower. The Cinebench score, which is the, what do we get for the battery size?
It is 71 watt hours.
Okay, so it is high. So it's probably
73, sorry.
73. So it might be. So this is back. People were wondering, and I was wondering why the Pro did so poorly in battery. Its battery is actually 71 watt hours, which isn't huge for one of these laptops, but it's about mid-range. So it's probably not the battery size. I think that we did run it in eco mode, which turns off its dedicated GPU. Perhaps some power was still being used by the dedicated GPU to cause it to perform so poorly. So that's something we look into with Asus. But let's go back into wrapping up, because I think that's important. So blue here is Intel. It gives you the least performance at low wattage, and to get it to perform well, you've got to feed it 20 more watts than one of the 5 processors or even a Snapdragon processor. So Intel's the worst performing right now in terms of power efficiency of general CPU tasks. The best performing continues to be Apple M3. Please ignore the top white dot. I explained why that is earlier. That's from an M3 Max chip that just adds more cores. And when you spread wattage over more cores, it becomes more efficient because, as you can see in the graph, lower wattage is, if you feed these lower wattage, they're more efficient. And that's what Apple's doing with M3 Max, right? They're just adding a lot more cores. So I would ignore that. But nonetheless, the other white dots, you can clearly see that Apple is still ahead, and that is in their M3 range. So in their M4 range, I would expect Apple's dominance to just continue into next year. And most of these laptops, Qualcomm X Elite, Zen 5, these laptops will be competing with M4 for the majority of their life. We're expecting M4 out probably around October, I would presume. I don't know that for sure, but that's what I presume. And then when we look at the next question is, how these perform versus Snapdragon, right? You've heard so much hoopla about how performant efficient these Snapdragon ones are. Zen 5 is better. It just is. And when I say it's better, it's a little better on power efficiency than Snapdragon, but it has other benefits, okay? Zen 5, all applications work, Windows applications. You can run Linux, you can run AAA games. A lot of these don't work at all on these Snapdragon laptops. The integrated GPU performance, as you saw, of Zen 5, this 890M, which is the new integrated graphics, and 880M, is better than, or at least the 890 is better than Qualcomm's integrated graphics. And Qualcomm's as well, the bigger problem is often it just either doesn't work or doesn't run natively. So better on integrated GPU, better on MPU. It's these Zen 5s that have a faster MPU as well, which is what's used for AI tasks. There is, if there were two laptops, one with a Zen 5 and one with a Qualcomm, there is absolutely no reason to buy Qualcomm. In fact, if Zen 5 gets into enough variety of laptops, I think Snapdragon is pretty much completely dead on arrival. There's no reason to take a risk. Can you give me the other side of that, Sierra? What's the other side of the argument for Qualcomm, would you say? Do you want to have a mic and you can tell people? Why would you get Qualcomm, seeing the results you got today?
Budget.
Hang on, speak into the mic, yeah. Do you want to come around here? Or you?
Yeah, sure. I feel like the only reason Qualcomm is still in the running is budget. Like as they've pointed out, we're starting at like $1,500 for the Zen 5 processors, and you can get a $1,000 Qualcomm laptop, and you get such a premium laptop at that price. So I would say that's, if you're a light user and you don't need that performance, but you do want your applications to feel like snappier and, you know, still pretty quick, I would say that that's the only argument I could kind of see, but the application compatibility is just such a no-go for so many people.
Yeah, yeah, and it's, when you say no-go, there are people who will say, hey, my applications work perfectly on there, right? Like we had someone who was a DJ, and I have a background in DJing as well, and I said, you know, Rekordbox, which is the main, not the main, it's one of the most common DJ software out there, it doesn't work. And he said, well, it does work, but the controller doesn't work. Well, that's the external DJ controller. If you can't DJ with, yes, if the software works, great, but if you can't use the controller,
that it doesn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't work. So, but there are some people out there who've written us comments. We love Snapdragon laptops. You're kidding yourselves. All my applications work, and good on them, right? We're trying to give you general advice. The best laptop for you is the one that works best for your use case. But seeing these numbers, given what Sierra just said, it really comes down to the package. If you're, and when I say package, the laptop as a whole. If you're buying one of these Qualcomm laptops, you know your software's going to work, or you're sticking to basic tasks, which we know works well, Office and browsing the web, they still do offer a very good package, right? Which is, and here's the Surface.
Yeah, and Josh loves the X Plus.
I do,
Yeah.
other than one thing. When I charge this, there's something wrong, and this happens on all the 3 Surface laptops we have.
It happens on some of the other Qualcomms too.
Yeah, all these Qualcomm laptops, when you charge them, plug them to the wall, they just get really warm. It's ridiculous. None of the other laptops we do do that, but they all do that. But it just depends on, you know, the price of what you're getting for the Qualcomm laptop, if it's still worth it. But let's say apples to apples, same price, same quality product, Qualcomm or
Oh, absolutely Zen 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just could not recommend Qualcomm at that point if it was the same price point. So if you're starting to look at Qualcomm laptops that are the $1,400 to $1,500 range, I would start considering Zen 5 instead.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, you shouldn't be buying a Qualcomm laptop over about it. I'd say even $1,000, $1,200.
Yeah, agreed.
And if the Zen 5 start dropping in price or cheaper, I'd say if it was the same kind of quality laptop, same display, same build quality, that kind of stuff, I'd say the Zen 5 is worth being $300 to $400 more, given the integrated graphics is better, all the applications worth, probably maybe $200 or $300? What would you say?
No, I agree. I think about $200 or $300, it's worth that. So if that's the price difference, I would say it's worth it. Maybe save up or budget for that.
Yeah, no, agreed. This is a really good story for Zen 5, folks. It really is. And it's a good story on many fronts. As you can see right on the screen in front of you, their power efficiency is second only to Apple now, and very close, ignoring the big white dots at the top, it is very close to Apple now in terms of their power efficiency. It's not there yet, but it's close to it. Apple is going to beat them on M4 for sure, no doubt, but this is a very, very good story. I mean, look at the red. The red is Zen 4, and the purple is Zen 5, which we're talking about today. You can see that they've not only pushed their curve up, right, meaning more performance, same wattage, but they've also pushed it to the left, which means less wattage for the same performance. So I would say this is a very solid incremental step forward from AMD. More than that, actually, when you factor in the NPU, it's probably like 2 incremental steps forward than Zen 4. And I just really like AMD's approach here. I think I love, as a product manager, and Sierra was a BA also in product management, that when you talk about technical product management, you know, Zen 5 have been cooking for what, 2 years? Zen 4 came out 2 years ago, I think it was. And when you talk about a product cycle that's 2 years long versus 1 year, you can get a lot more done. You can make more, you know, bigger architectural changes than you can with 1 year. And we're really seeing that here, that it's paying off for them. So I like they took 2 years to get this done. You know, everyone paid them out for the 8000 series, which is essentially Zen 4. And I also like that their marketing approach. You know, Qualcomm just spent so much money marketing these processors and generating so much hype around them. And then it took YouTubers like us, and then I think Hardware Canucks has a great recent video out on it as well, that, you know, they are good, but they're not as good as what Qualcomm's marketing department has made us all believe. And it's kind of been a letdown compared to their marketing department, right? They are good, but because their marketing department was kind of claiming this, when they came in just here, everyone's saying, oh, really? You know? But now AMD's the opposite. Look at this video. We've got 300 people watching. The Qualcomm one of this had probably 1,000, right?
Yeah.
There's been no hype about this. AMD has not pushed these on reviewers. We've had no contact from AMD. They're just like, you know, through Asus, here's a couple of these laptops, go test them. And they're letting the product speak for themselves. Don't spend the money on marketing. Spend the money on making the product as good as possible, and people will talk about it. And even though there's 300 people watching this stream right now, I guarantee that after a couple of positive reviews on these Zen 5 laptops like this one, people are going to be very excited about them. So, you know, very good story here for AMD. Very, very, very good story. Thank you everyone for watching. Originally I was going to do a second run through for those people who joined late, but I think we've already summed it up here. We'll leave the stream up that anyone who wants to watch it can watch it. We will actually do a nice one of our punchy 12-minute videos of what we talked about today, which will be live on the channel. We'll delete the live stream once we get the, you know, the full video out on it. We'll fix a couple of things that we talked about today that needed fixing. You know, in terms of upcoming videos, we've got the best Snapdragon laptops coming out. It is still relevant given what Sierra just said, if you get one for the right price point. We've got that one coming. We've got the summarized version of this video coming. Well, then we're going to do the ProArt 13. We'll review that. We have a review of the Predator 14, which is just a really surprisingly good laptop, and no one's talking about it, so I wanted to do that. Someone is asking about a Patreon. We do have a Patreon. We haven't updated it in ages. I will put a community post, because I don't have the, maybe I can put it on here. We just don't really, we haven't really been promoting it. And one of the reasons, guys, is, you know, one of the reasons I went full-time with YouTube is I wanted to actually help people improve in their careers, right? So I have a business channel, and that business channel is all about, you know, working your way up the corporate ladder and being financially successful. How can I, you know, speak about financial success and then, you know, asking people for money on Patreon? It just doesn't make sense to the brand. But I think if people do want to help the business by contributing through Patreon, absolutely, it will help grow the business for sure. Do I personally need that money? No. And if you're financially struggling in any way, keep your money. But if you're financially comfortable and do want to help grow this business, yes, we will have Patreon, and you guys can do that. I'll post it in a community post after the video so you guys can see, because I don't want to do it right now. I've got to relog on and all that kind of stuff. But that's why we're not pushing Patreon, because I just feel it doesn't fit the brand of, hey, we're helping people be successful in business, but hey, give us your money. Like that just doesn't make sense. But yeah, if you're comfortable, then go for it. So I'll put that on a community post. So we've got a lot of great videos coming. We're going to rip through some reviews. We've also got the Surface Pro, which I want to give a review of as well. That's it's like the tablet version of the Surface laptop. Surface Pro, Predator 14, ProArt. We're going to be very busy, and we're trying to move offices actually in September before the Black Friday rush, which is going to be even more crazy. But we're hoping to get a bigger space where we can, you know, we can just produce more content for you. We're struggling, honestly, guys. I think we want to produce high quality videos for you, and I think that's what we're being known for. You know, really good thorough testing, good production quality, good storytelling. It takes a lot of work to do these videos, so we're hoping to expand to a bigger space that we can do that faster for you. I don't know, Sierra, what do you got to say before we go? Any thoughts?
My suggestion with laptops is always to wait until you can buy what you want and what you need. You know, so if these are out of your price point, but this sounds like what you need, then maybe budget a little bit and wait. That's always kind of my suggestion with this kind of thing. Yeah.
It's funny, we're getting completely off track here. We have another video which we're trying to do. I have a need to buy a very old Alienware laptop for just a completely separate purpose. I have to update some firmware in older older SSD drives. But we were talking about this before, that it's completely off topic, but how a lot of people ask us for more budget laptop suggestions.
Yep.
And we tend to think of budget as something like $600 to maybe $800.
Yeah.
And we get that we've got a lot of wonderful viewers in different international markets, or even here in the US, where spending $500 to $800 is not budget for a laptop. That's a lot, right? But we think of it as budget because when we see the range. One of the reasons we don't talk about laptops under $500 or new ones, we have done so many videos on them. They are absolute garbage, and the amount you just drop off once you go below $500 for a new laptop, it's just not worth it. And so what we suggest there is buying, to kind of what Sierra was saying, instead of buying a crappy one, buy a good one from like last year or next year, which should be more. I know you were saying something about buying, waiting to afford the laptop you can buy, but when you're below $500, just buy a better laptop from a prior year or a second-hand one. That's the way to go for sure. All right, guys.
All right.
We're going to go for breakfast. We're exhausted. It's 7:45 in the morning on a Sunday morning here. Thank you very much for joining us on today's live stream. I'm sorry it was 25 minutes late that it started and we had to swap streams. We absolutely will be going through a bit of a root cause analysis. This has happened a couple of times on our streams, and it doesn't represent the professionalism that we like to do for you guys. So we will be looking at that, perhaps changing streaming software, maybe getting a different streaming setup, because it does seem that streams are here to stay for us. We're trying to do a weekly one for you. In fact, guys, we're actually planning to launch a clips channel, which will just clip the weekly live stream so you can see the most interesting parts. Thank you very much, everyone, for being with us.
Thank you.